Hi everyone and welcome once again to Ruby's Classic Cooking. And today I'm making peach upside down cake. So without further ado, let's just dive straight into this recipe. Now if you've already watched my videos on pineapple upside down cake and apple upside down cake, you know what happens. First of all, I melt 3 tablespoons of butter in my 8-inch square pan, which, don't worry metric people, I'll have all the metric equivalents in my description box when I write the recipe in below. So I've already melted it in here, and to this I'm going to be adding a half a cup of brown sugar. Now don't forget, with brown sugar you have to pack it down so that when it comes out of your cup it looks like a sand castle at the beach. Now this is a 1/4 cup I'm using, so 2 1/4 cups equals a half a cup. So I will just be using 2 of these. Just kind of pop that down there. And over here, there we go. There's my brown sugar in. Okay, and to my butter and brown sugar mixture, I'm just going to add a half a teaspoon of cinnamon. There we go. Just sprinkle that right there on my sugar and butter. Okay, cinnamon is in, and I am just going to spread this brown sugar around here so that it covers the entire bottom of my pan. Just like this. I want it to all be in that melted butter and that nice even layer on the bottom of your pan. It says in fact to sprinkle it, which I didn't do. I just kind of threw the cups in there, the half a cup in there. Anyway, just make sure all your brown sugar gets kind of moistened by the butter, by the melted butter, and get it kind of spread in a nice even layer. Kind of a slurry it should look like, because this is going to be your caramelization and your sauce that's going to be on your cake later. I like to get this done first, because then when I have my cottage pudding that goes on top of it all ready to go, this will be all prepared and ready for me to just pop my cake batter right on and pop it straight in the oven. Efficiency in the kitchen. There we go. Here it is with my brown sugar all spread out on the bottom. Now I am going to take my peaches. Now, this is my first problem with this recipe. Let me just put this brown sugar out of the way. Okay, my first problem with this recipe is that it calls for a 20-ounce can of peaches. And you know what? They don't sell 20-ounce cans of peaches anymore. They used to back in the good old days when they wrote this recipe up, but that was back in the days of old, and shrinkage has happened to those cans, and now you have your choice of a 28-ounce can, which is 796 milliliters, which you may as well call 800 milliliters, 28 ounces, or you can get a 14-ounce can. So too much or too little. So what I've done is gotten a 28-ounce can, but since I need 20 ounces, and that's almost 1/3 more, I'm going to take some of these peaches out of here, and I'm not going to use them all. Because if you use too many peaches, and this is the voice of experience speaking, it doesn't cook properly, and you end up, the cake doesn't stay together, and it just goes blah all over the place and makes a huge mess. So I'm going to try to use 20 ounces this morning. It also says to drain them, so I'm not going to put any of the juice in here. I'm just going to keep, that's where I'm going to put my spares. And tomorrow I'll take that 14-ounce can, the next time I'm cooking this, the next few days, I'll take the 14-ounce can and the rest of these, and I'll make a peach cobbler. So be watching for that video coming out. So right now I'm just going to take my peaches out of my can, like so. These are peach halves, and I have to slice them. I chose peach halves rather than peach slices because I wanted to make nice neat slices myself. Sometimes you get them in the can and they're not very tidy looking slices. So let's see how many halves we've got here in my 28-ounce can. Maybe it will make it simple for me to divide out the extra third that I don't have room for. Oh, I've got 9. I have 10 peach halves here. Look at that. Okay. All right, 10 peach halves. Let me just put my can over here. Okay, so that means if I had 9, that would mean I eliminate 3 of them. So what I'm going to do is just take 3 of my peach halves out of here, because that takes away 1/3 of my peaches, and if I take 1/3 of this one and put it away, that would be exactly 1/3. So mathematics is very important in the kitchen. So I may or may not do that. I may just leave that extra one. I'll see if I need it or not. So first of all, I'm going to just take my peaches, I'm going to cut them in half. I'm going to take another cut on the side like this so that I have my peaches in quarters. And I'm just going to cut them from the top to the bottom as much as I can here. I'm just going to take these peach slices and I'm just going to arrange them in my pan. Here, let me just move this out of the way so you can see what I'm doing here. Let me move this big bowl out of the way. There we go. Now maybe you can see what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to arrange these down here like so. And make 3 lines of peach slices, quarter slices of my peaches. So just like this. And they're not all going to end up being the same size, but this is for family, so they're not really going to care, I don't think. If they're that fussy, it's DIY, people. Criticize the cook and you get to do the cooking. That's the rule in my house. And there you are. My peaches are all arranged in the bottom of my pan. And now I'm going to put that to one side. I'm going to wash my sticky fingers off. And I'm going to carry on with making my cottage pudding. Oh, and I'm just going to take the rest of my peaches and I'm going to put them in my refrigerator until I'm making that peach cobbler tomorrow. Okay, so now we move on to phase 2 of this recipe, which I'm going to use my handheld mixer today just to show you that you can use a stand mixer, you can use a wooden spoon, or you can use one of these old babies here. First of all, I have in here 1/3 of a cup of butter, and that's just lying in here, and there's a little bit of sugar in there because I was measuring my sugar in here, because I'm about to put my sugar in here. 1 cup of white sugar, which I'm just going to pour in there like that. And now I'm going to beat these two together. They are creamed thoroughly, it says, so I'm not going to make you listen to this, but here I go with my electric beater here. Okay, now I want to show you what this looks like now. It's not just a lump of butter and a bunch of sugar. Now there's no loose sugar in there. It's all integrated into the butter. So that's thoroughly creamed together. So now I'm going to add my vanilla and my good old egg. And then I'm going to beat it until it is light and fluffy. So that is 1 teaspoon of vanilla and 1 egg. So measure up my vanilla. Oops. That's not how that's supposed to work, but 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Alright, vanilla in. Here comes the egg. Come on, egg. No shell, please. Thank you. Now I'm going to beat these together until it's light and fluffy. All right. Now at this point I'm just going to scrape down my bowl a little bit because you can see there's some of the sugar butter mixture that didn't get integrated into the main mixture. Just going to scrape down my bowl with my spatula. And give this another little stir up. You can see how my mixture in my bowl has now changed with the addition of the egg and the vanilla. Right? There we go. And now on to my final thing which I have to add, my liquid and dry ingredients. Now here I have 1½ cups of flour, and over here I have a cup of whole milk. I always cook with whole milk because A, it costs the same amount as 2% or 1%. B, you get a little extra butter fat in your cooking, which adds to the flavor. This fat equals flavor, unfortunately. And I don't know. Now, I'm not going to use the same measuring spoon because it's wet. Don't use a wet measuring spoon when you're measuring baking soda or baking powder. And this is baking powder this morning. And I'm using baking powder this morning. 2 teaspoons of baking powder go in here. Here's my dry spoon. Scrape off the, oh shoot, I just put it in the wrong bowl. Oops. Not a big disaster, but you know. Oops, went in the wrong bowl. And a half a teaspoon of salt. Now I'll try to make sure this one goes in. It's all going to end up in that bowl anyway, so anyway. And a half a teaspoon of salt. And I am using the same teaspoon I used, same half teaspoon that I used when I was measuring my cinnamon, because like they're both solids, so. And a little bit of cinnamon isn't going to hurt anything in my flour mixture because it's all going together anyway, right? So now here's my dry ingredients here, which I'm just going to give a quick little stir up here. And I'm going to add 1/3 of these to my batter. And mix it up with my beaters, starting slowly because we don't want a cloud of flour flowing over the kitchen, right? I'm not going to scrape down my bowl because I'm still going to add more flour to this, so it doesn't really make a difference. I'm now going to add half of my milk, which is a half a cup of milk. Knowing your math and knowing your math skills really, really helps you out in the kitchen in a lot of ways. So girls and boys and everybody out there, knowing your math skills is very helpful in the kitchen. If you don't have math skills, well, make sure you have a calculator handy so you can figure these things out as you're starting out, and maybe write down in your recipe half a cup is the half of this. Half of my milk in here. And there it is after the first addition of flour and milk. There you go. So the batter is getting much softer looking now. And now another 1/3 of my flour goes in here. And I'm not really, like I don't measure this out or whatever. I just kind of guessed. I just eyeball it. I guesstimate, I eyeball. And now in it goes. And now I'm going to add the remainder of my milk, which is a half a cup. I mean, if you add more than half a cup to the first stage, don't panic and think you have to ladle that back out, because it's in the long run it doesn't really make a difference. And when they say do not overbeat, what they mean is beat it until the flour disappears or the ingredients are combined. Don't keep beating and beating and beating because you'll make it tough. So here we go. And I'm just going to show you what that batter looks like. Getting pretty wet right now, and now I'm going to add the other 1/3 of my flour, or whatever's left in my bowl, which may not be a third by this point, but you know what? That's the rest of my flour added, so that's what's important. Alrighty, now feed in the rest of my flour. Now that I have all of my ingredients in, I like to scrape down my bowl and make sure there isn't any flour hiding up here or anything else that hasn't gotten combined, and I'm just going to scrape down my bowl again. There now. My batter is completely finished. There's my cottage pudding. And now I'm just going to pull over my prepared peaches here, and I'm going to pour this over top of them. And then it's going to go right into my 350-degree preheated oven. And it's going to stay in there for an hour. Now, I also resisted the temptation of putting any peach juice from the can in here, by the way, because it says to drain the peaches, and voice of experience again, I did put some peach juice in there and it was a disaster, so don't do that to yourself. Here's my batter, goes in here, spread it out to all your corners. Make sure you get it all out of your bowl. Like that. And now make sure you've leveled your cake off a little bit here. And clean fingers, by the way, clean fingers. Just going to give this a quick wipe off with my clean fingers. Okay? Make sure I don't leave any on the spatula. Now this is going into my oven for, because this is a glass pan, it's going in for 55 minutes, which is pretty much an hour, but 55 minutes. I'm going to test it, see if it's done or not, and we'll be back with the big reveal, hopefully. Keep your fingers crossed for me that it comes out nice and neatly and doesn't go blah all over the platter. I'll be back. Everyone, welcome back. It's now been 55 minutes later, and here's my cake out of the oven. I've got my cake testing probe here, and I'm just going to probe my cake 2 or 3 places. See, it's coming out nice and clean. Nice clean probe, and that's great. And you can use a toothpick to test as a cake tester, or if you have a special cake tester like that, you can. Now, I'm just going to loosen the edges of my cake in my pan with a regular knife from the drawer. And just make sure that it's not stuck anywhere around the edges here. As you can see, my cake is nice and golden brown, and it's starting to pull away from the edges of my Pyrex pan here. There we go. Now that. And now comes the moment of truth. As I put my cake onto my platter, is it going to go nice and neat and tidy and beautiful like my pineapple upside down cake, or is it not? Let's see what's going to happen. Keep your fingers crossed as we go. 1, 2, 3, and over it goes. Oh, not quite 100%. All right, and there you have it, peach upside down cake. Isn't that lovely looking? I know that one got flipped over, so this one kind of stands out for the crowd, but isn't it beautiful? And it's all nicely caramelized and smells absolutely fantastic. I hope you enjoyed watching me cook my peach upside down cake today, and that you will like, subscribe, comment, and give this recipe a try. Let me know when you try it how it turns out for you. And I hope you'll come back next time and watch me and see what I'm cooking next time on Ruby's Classic Cooking. Bye for now.